Hello, everyone. Good morning from Florida, but good evening, good afternoon, depending on whatever time zone you are in. Welcome to today's workshop. We have an interesting panel of speakers that are going to help us with an emerging tool. So, we have two very interesting speakers. We have Dr. Ahmed Mohammed from Maldives National University. An emerging tool. So, we have two very interesting speakers. We have Dr. Ahmed Mohammed from Maldives. And then we also have with us Dr. Visal Musa from Islamic University of Maldives. So before I get them on, there's a couple of things very quickly. If you want to join the conversation, please make sure that you use the comment section on YouTube. That's what you can do so we can get some answers for your questions. The second is, if you're not subscribed to the channel, you can subscribe to the channel because I always do these type of workshops for the benefit of a wider research community. The third one and the last announcement very quickly is, let me quickly share my screen and then show this. Okay. All right. So the third one is, I have already mentioned it several times in my emails and everything. Most of the workshops and everything that I do, they are free for everybody to attend. There's no charge, nothing at all. But obviously, I need some support to continue doing this because of the cost, and I have to hire some people to help me with some stuff. So if you can support me, and this is not, a big support, but I created a page. It's called Buy Me a Coffee. So you can support me through this platform. You can simply just go to buymeacoffee/researchbeast and you can support there. But of course, if you cannot do that, that's completely fine. No worries. But if you do it, I'll highly appreciate it. And other researchers who take benefit of these type of initiatives would also appreciate this. Now, let's get this out of the way. Let's bring first Dr. Visal Musa to the stream. Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Visal, and welcome. And then,
Walaikum salam, Prof.
Thank you. And then let's bring Dr. Ahmed Mohammed to the stream. Hello and assalamu alaikum, Dr. Ahmed.
Walaikum salam. Thank you, Prof. Faizan.
Okay. All right. So now we have both our distinguished speakers into the stream. Very quickly, today's stream is mainly about bibliometric analysis, which is an emerging tool. I won't talk too much about that because our speakers are going to talk about that. But I'll just say that it's an emerging tool, and then more and more people are working on it because of its importance in the field and its importance in literature reviews and stuff. Today's session will be more hands-on, the focus being on how can we use this tool to write research papers. So I am going to stop here. I'll get myself out of stream and then I'll hand over the streams to Dr. Visal and Dr. Ahmed. Whoever wants to share your screen, please just share your screen and then we can add that to the stream so people can watch your screen. Okay.
Yeah, thank you very much, Prof. Faizan, for the kind introduction and also giving us this opportunity to share our knowledge with an international audience through the Research Beast. And I'll start, I'll do the first part of today's workshop, and my colleague, Dr. Vishal, is going to do the second part of the workshop. So in the first phase, I will share my screen, and after that Dr. Vishal will share his screen. So let me share my screen first. Yeah, all right. Okay, so is it visible, Dr. Faizan?
Yes, it's all good. Yes.
All right. So tonight, from my end in Maldives, so now this is evening 7 p.m. In the Maldives time, our local time, and I greet everyone who's participate in this workshop. And today's workshop is titled as Using Bibliometric Analysis for Writing a Research Paper. And both of us, we are going to facilitate this workshop for tonight's session. And in the workshop, we will try to cover these areas, especially the definition and the concept of the bibliometrics, and also the bibliometric data sources. And after that, after talking about these data sources, we'll try to look into how to do searching and extracting bibliometric data from those sources. So once we extracted the data, we need to do the cleaning, data cleaning and necessary steps, and then we move into the data analysis and the reporting of the bibliometric data. But very significantly, we'll also look into the network visualization using VOSViewer. So this is an open source software that we will use during tonight's session, especially during the hands-on activities. And after that, finally, we look into writing a bibliometric paper and how we need to structure a good bibliometric paper. So these are the things that we are going to cover during tonight's workshop. And looking at the concept of bibliometric, the bibliometric, this term, it has two parts. One is about the biblio. So this refers to book, and the metrics refers to measurement. And from this end, we understand that we are going to talk about some measurements related to published work, because book itself is a published work. So it's a published document. So we are going to talk about some measurements, and these measurements in relation with published documents. As we know that there are different metric studies. It's not only the bibliometrics, but we have the scientometrics, we have the infometrics, cybermetrics, webometrics, almetrics, all these different metric studies. But we are not going to the details of the other different metric studies, and we are going to look at the first one, which is going to be focused on publications. So which covers the bibliometrics, covers the publications, and also look into the citation analysis. And the word bibliometrics was coined, this term was coined by Alan Prickard in 1969 in the document published in the Journal of Documentation. And from the Google Scholar, when we search this document, we understand that this document has been cited more than 3,000 times so far. And nowadays, this is going to be one of the very trending topic in the area of publications. Although the bibliometric is from the library science area, nowadays in the research, we have been using this. Therefore, we know that the application of bibliometrics in the research is really significant and important for us, for the researchers, as well as for the institutions. Not only the institutions, but also the organizations, even the universities, and also the funding agencies. So let's look at what it is. What is bibliometrics? I have chosen 4 different definitions here. The first one, it talks about all studies which seek to quantify the process of written communication. We know that we are talking about some published document. published work. And when we talk about the bibliometrics, we understand that we try to measure something. So when we try to measure it, we are trying to quantify the process of this written communication in bibliometrics. And also in the bibliometrics, we use the quantitative treatment for the purpose of measuring the properties of those recorded documents. And looking at the third definition, it says that it's an application of mathematical and statistical analysis to bibliography. So we understand that we are talking about a mathematical, a quantitative, and statistical analysis related to the bibliography or bibliometric information available in the documents. So the final definition, it gives a very comprehensive and clear idea, and it's very simple and clear. It says the statistical analysis of bibliographic data, mainly in the scientific and also the technical literature. So by looking at all these four different definitions, we understand that there are commonalities, the common terminologies, or closely related terminologies in the definition of bibliometrics, and which is all about using a quantitative analysis of the bibliometric data in the published literature.
Sorry, Dr. Ahmed, just one moment, okay? Just one moment. A few people actually said they can't see the slides clearly. I just want to say that this YouTube plays by default 480p. So if you can't see the slides clearly, increase the resolution to maybe 720 or 1080, and you should be able to see it very clearly, okay? It's just your own internet strength. It's not the problem with the slides.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr.
Thank you.
So now the question is, who is interested in bibliometrics? I'm very sure that those who are registered for this workshop and also those who are attending are very much interested in the bibliometrics and learn about this. We understand that the governments and also the funding agencies, they have an interest on this because the funding agencies, they want to know what are the trending areas and what are the trending areas in today's in the market, or even within the research context, and all these things whenever they want to fund for those research projects. So that's one. And institutions, the universities, they also have great interest, especially when we talk about the benchmarking and also the recruiting and so on. And even the faculties within the universities, we also want to do a lot of collaborations with our other international universities or institutions, and also we want to have collaborative work with other institutions. So in that case, the schools, the faculties, even the colleges, they are much interested. And even like individual researchers, we are very much interested because we want to secure grants, and also we try to publish these papers, and this can be really counted for our promotion and for our tenure and all these things. And even the librarians are very much interested, especially those who provide research-related services in the library. They are interested in this. And now, before we move into the data sources, I think we should talk about the application of bibliometrics and how we are going to apply the analysis, the findings that we get from the bibliometric analysis. One is we try to identify what are the research trends and even what's the growth of knowledge in a specific field of study. So, which is going to be very helpful for our future research, and also to identify the authorships and its trends in documents on various subjects. And as I mentioned that we can, using this bibliometric analysis, we will be able to forecast the future publishing trends, not only the future research trends or the growth of knowledge. We are also going to forecast the publishing trends as well, and also to predict the productivity of the publishers and even individual researchers. And we can predict the productivity of the universities and even the countries in different areas of research. And we have a lot of applications, but significantly I'm going to talk about some of these. For example, we will be able to identify the journals with the greatest impact in various research areas. For example, in the area of educational leadership, what are the journals which having the greatest impact? For example, in the area of tourism and hospitality area, and what are the journals which having the greatest impact? And also, we try to identify the potential research collaboration opportunities, because even individual researchers and the institutions, we try to seek for a research collaboration, and even this research collaboration counts in different and various ways when we talk about benchmarking and all these things. So finally, let me talk about to identify the areas of research strength and also the weakness. That's also how we can apply the bibliometrics. From this end, now we need to look at the bibliometric indicators. So these indicators are very important, the bibliometric indicators, because when we start with our new project, when we start to write, when we start to do our bibliometric analysis, we need to formulate our research purpose, our research objectives, or what was the objective of doing this bibliometric analysis. So in that case, we try to identify all these indicators, and we relate our objectives, our research questions, and all these things with the bibliometric indicators. So bibliometric indicators are some metrics again. So those are some measurements and are numerical measurements that provide quantitative information about the research performance. And in that case, here are some of the indicators. For example, the author, the departments or institutions, countries, journals, documents, and even, the number of documents. For example, the subject areas and categories. So these are some of the indicators that we usually use in bibliometric indicators. From this point, I think the participants would have a question. What's the purpose of having these indicators? And also, from where we are able to identify these indicators? Let's look at this paper. So this is a journal article published, and from this one you will be able to identify what's the name of the journal, and even the title is there. So in the title there are very important words, and for example, if we want to look into the key concepts or the key terms or the key topics, in that case those words are very important. Even the keywords mentioned in the abstract, that's also very important bibliometric information. Even the references at the end of the research paper, and even the name of authors are there, their affiliation is there, the name of the country is there, So all these this data are important for our analysis. Let's look at these two research papers, and two papers published in the area of one is on the healthcare management area, another one is all about the educational leadership and management area. So looking at these research questions, we are able to identify those important indicators. For example, in the first one, the research question 1, it says about the growth of trend. Here they are referring to the documents. So the document is the key indicator used for this research question. And for the research question 2, authors and also documents are two important indicators. And likewise, in each and every research question, we used to have these indicators. Looking at the next one, this is about the educational leadership and management. In referring to question number 2, it says what authors, institutions, journal articles emerged from regions that had greatest influence on educational leadership and management research over the past 6 decades. So even in this question, they use 3 different indicators. One is the author, another one is institutions, and another one is the journal articles. So these are the indicators, and the main important use of these indicators actually reflect in our research questions or in our research objectives. So I think now this is the time for us to look into the data sources. For every analysis, we need data. And now the question is from where we need to search for this data and where this data is available. So this is going to be the next question that everyone would have. There are a lot of databases, and we know that these databases provide bibliometric information. Even the Web of Science, owned by the Clarivate Analytics, they also provide the bibliometric data or information. And when we look into the VOS, so this is one of the source of bibliometric data, and looking at this VOS and the core collection of the Web of Science, we know that they have social citation index, social science citation, arts and humanities citation, emergence of citations. So these are categories where you can even filter more when you try to search for your information. For example, if you want to do a bibliometric analysis on a topic related to social science and arts or humanities, then if you want to exclude the science citation index articles, you can do that. So you can focus on those 3 areas. And when we do this data search, we always try to use the inclusion and exclusion criteria. Even the inclusion and exclusion criteria that we use in the systematic literature review, similarly, we can apply that even in the bibliometric analysis as well. Very interestingly, I would like to highlight the coverage of VOS. Looking at this information, we understand that in VOS, the coverage is very excellent in the area of biochemistry or molecular biology or chemistry, especially the science area, and even the mathematics and engineering sciences in those areas. But the coverage is moderate. It's a little bit less in the area of social science, or in political science, or humanities, or educational science area. The coverage is less compared with the science area. So if you want to do, for example, if you want to do a bibliometric analysis on educational science related area or humanities related area, this source of information, the Web of Science, may not be the best search engine that you have to use. But in case of humanities and educational sciences, or in social science, we may prefer to go the Scopus, because in Scopus the coverage is larger compared with the WOS, especially in the area of social science and humanities in that area. So this is also one of the largest abstract and citation database owned by the Elsevier, and we use this database as well as one of the very important data source for our bibliometric analysis. And when we look into the content of the Scopus, this is the very recent data I took from their website today. And from here, it shows that there are more than 82 million documents in the Scopus database, and more than 1.7 billion cited references. So all these are bibliometric information. Even the author profile, when we look at the author profile, there are 17 plus million author profiles. And even the institutional profile, more than 80,000 institutions. So the Scopus itself, it has a very good coverage of bibliometric information, and you can use this as another source of data for your analysis. Looking at the coverage, as I mentioned that, for example, if you look at the life sciences, compared with the life sciences, the social science area is much larger, and also the physical science and health science area, there is a good coverage in these areas. And even now the numbers may be differ. If you refer to the recent guide published in the website, I think now it is even in the health science area, it is we have 14,400 and something titles in this area. And even in the area of social science, even the number differs, and now there are much more, because this figure is not a very, very recent one. In that case, there may be some differences if you compare with the more recent one available in the website. When you do the, or when we do the bibliometric analysis, we need to understand the coverage of those, the different databases. We need to understand that coverage. So that's very important. For example, if you want to do social science area, or especially education, for example, I'm very much interested in educational leadership and management in this area. In that case, I must prefer the Scopus database instead of Web of Science, because of the coverage and the number of articles available in the database as well. Another bibliometric data source is the Dimension. This is one of the open source database. So this is a free one, unlike the other two, because usually if you want to do the document search, then we have to subscribe the Scopus and was from our institution side. But this is a free one, Dimension. You can go to Dimension and you can use a Dimension as well as a data source. And another one is even the PubMed, especially those who are doing medicine-related research and studies. You can use this database as well. And the Google Scholar is also another database, but for the purpose of bibliometric analysis, there are a lot of limitations in the Google Scholar. So usually I don't prefer to go for bibliometric data search from the Google Scholar, because there are some limitations, and one of the limitation is about the articles or the documents index in the Google Scholar. In terms of the quality assurance, I think we must be a little bit cautious when we use the data from the Google Scholar. So I don't prefer to go for Google Scholar, but the Web of Science and the Scopus are very good data sources. And even if we want to get some information related to the journals, we can use the CIMAGO journal and even the country ranking. This SJR website. This is also one of the source that we can use other than those databases that I mentioned just now. And Dr. Faizan, how's everything going so far? Because I don't see the chat, I don't see the questions, those things, because I am using the full screen.
So it's good. I actually didn't want to stop you. There are quite a few questions, and if you want, we can take some questions now because people are asking questions. I just thought maybe we should wait until like a logical break in the middle.
That's okay. I think we can spend some time after my part, and we can take those questions.
Sure. Yeah. Okay, no problem.
Let's go into the bibliometric data searching and extracting, and we need to do some hands-on activities on this area. And this is a very important phase, because even in every research, we have a data collection phase. So this is the phase. And in the data collection, we must use really good procedures, and we need to ensure that the data that we collect are valid enough for us to use in our analysis. Otherwise, again, people may question about our analysis and our findings. So in that case, we must be very cautious when we do this part of the bibliometric analysis. This is all about the data collection phase. And I just mentioned we need to do we need to use good search techniques. For example, even if we collect data for our studies, our other research studies, not the bibliometric. For example, if you use a questionnaire, or if you use the interview and all these things in our usual research studies, even in that case, we as researchers, we must use the most appropriate techniques, the data collection techniques in those studies as well. So very similarly, even in bibliometric studies, or even if you're going to do the systematic literature review, even in that case, we need to use these techniques such as Booleans, use of quotation marks, use of parentheses, use of wildcards, truncations are very important. So we need to use these operators when we do the search. For example, looking at the Boolean, one of the technique. Here, in this case, we have and, or, and not. For example, if we look into assessment and achievement, then our search will be very different. If we use O, like assessment or achievement, then we get a more larger search result. And even assessment, we only want the assessment and not the achievement, then we can exclude papers. We can only include those papers talking about the assessment, not the achievement. Then this Boolean is important. So that's one. And even, for example, if you talk about the inclusive education, the inclusive education itself is one terminology. If you want to search for inclusive education, we need to use quotation mark. So it must be within the quotation mark. If we don't use the quotation mark, then we will get the papers either talking about the inclusive or papers either talking about the education, and then our search result will be too broader, and there will be a lot of unrelated papers in our search result. Similarly, like assessment for learning or instructional leadership, if there are 2 words or 3 words in your terminology or the term that you want to use, then we have to, or you have to use the quotation mark. And also the parenthesis is also important, using these brackets and all these things. And even the use of wildcards, for example, we have different spelling for organization, UK in the British English and the American English. We have 2 different spelling, like S and Z. In that case, if you want to include the word having S and also the word having Z, in that case, instead of the S and Z, we can use, like, for example, a question mark. In some cases, there are, I'm just introducing 3 different wildcards here: the question mark and the $sign, and also the asterisk. You can use that. And the truncation is another one that you can use. For example, if you want to include like performer, performance, performing, all these things, and then we can write perform and the asterisk there, then the remaining part of the word will be included, and we will be able to include those papers talking about the performer, performing, performance, or these things. One other example is about the computers, computerization, these things. So now I think this is the time for us to go for live demonstration. And unfortunately, in our institution, I don't have the Scopus. I mean, we don't have the Scopus subscription, and therefore I will not be able to go into the live demo of the Scopus, but I will do the live demo of the dimensions. Then I will also try to demonstrate some, not a live demonstration, but I will show you how to extract data from Scopus as well. So let's start with this one first, and let's go to the dimension. Okay, this one. So this is the database. For example, let's write distributed leadership. Okay, now this is the live demo that I want to show you. How is going to be the search result? Let's select title and abstract, and then, because I'm not using the quotation mark at the moment, let's see what is the result. It's 3,786. So let me use, because now the paper is talking about distributed will be there, paper is talking about even the leadership will be there, but let me narrow down and try to make it more focused. And in that case, let me use the quotation mark here, and now see about how it reduced, the search result reduced to half of that the initial result. Now it is 1174. And even when we talk about the distributed leadership, because usually we are very familiar with our area of interest, and in that case, if you're very familiar with the content area that you are searching, then you will be able to identify what are the other key terms that we must include in our search. For example, in this case, let us use one other Boolean. For example, we want to include shared leadership. So I want to put N here, and shared leadership is synonymously used for distributed leadership by some authors. So here. So now I want the articles having both distributed leadership and shared leadership in the title of the paper and also in the abstract of the paper. So now let's look at the search result. I think there is an issue. Shared leadership, sorry. Okay, now there are 35 publications, because these 35 publications will have 35 publications are talking both about the distributed and shared leadership. For example, if we change this Boolean to O instead of and, because in my search, if I use and, it is again not going to be the appropriate search for this bibliometric analysis, because if we use and, it's very much narrowed down, and since this term is synonymously used, some of the people they may use shared, and other authors may use distribute leadership. So we must use O instead of N in this case. So now look at the number of documents. See, the number of documents are now 2,301. So this is the importance of using good search strategies in your data search for bibliometric studies. And now let's look at here, even in on the other side here, the left side of the database, we have the filtration filter options. For example, you can include, like for example, the last 5 years from 2016 to 2020, then you can limit. Then even these are some of the inclusion criteria you can use. For example, if you want to limit to publication type to only the journal articles, you can limit to only journal articles. You don't want to include the preprints, monograph, and the proceedings. If you don't want to do that, you can and this one you need to note down, and you need to explain all the search strategies that you use, and even finally the search string that you use, and even the filtration, how you limit your search. So all these things you need to. So now I have 819 publications here, documents, and now want to export this. So in that case, you have the export option here. You can why I'm not getting the export option here? Because I have not logged in. So let me log in now, and So if you log in to the database, then you have this option, the export option. I think try. I think okay, let me keep this one, and because the time flies. So let's go to the next one. This is about the Scopus, data extraction from Scopus. And in Scopus, you have, when you log into the Scopus, you have different search areas. For example, document search, author search, affiliation, and advanced search. And from here, from the document search, you have the options. You have the option to choose the Boolean as well, whether you want to choose and, or, and not. And also you can limit your search area, whether you want to include the title, keyword, abstract, and keywords, then you have to use that. And also you have the function of keeping the limits. For example, you want to limit to the last 10 years or last 30 years, like 3 decades, you can do that. And even whether you want to limit to only the journal articles, that option is also there. So this is the responsibility of the researcher to make your own search query. So you have to make a good search query for your bibliometric analysis. Okay, when I use the distributed leadership and shared leadership, and it was from 1960 to 2020, there were 108,874 documents in the search result. But I want to use some of the search filters. And for example, the document type, I want to include only the papers published in English language. Then you can use some of these search filters. So search filters will be appeared on the website, and you can choose. For example, if you want to select the subject area, you can limit your search to that. In my case, I use the articles and review and the conference papers, and also I limit my search to English language only, so English language papers. Now the search result is like 1,593. Okay, so this is my my search query is here. My search the search string is here, and this search string is very important for you to save, because you need to provide this search string in your paper. So when we talk about writing a paper, research paper using Bibliometrics, you need to have this search string with you. And after that, we need to export this data. And when you click the export, you get this. So from here, you have to choose the method of export. For in case where you want to use the software like VOSViewer, you have to use CSV file here. And you need to click the citation information, and you can include the bibliometric information, abstract, and keywords. But this is not necessary. For example, funding details is not necessary, but it is important to include like include the references, this one. Okay, then we export our data file. So now this is how you will get the data file in the CSV format. Okay, so I have taken more than enough time. So now let me try to start with the bibliometric analysis, and I'll try to address 2 questions, and after that I'll hand over the floor to Dr. Vishal. Okay, before that, let me try with the first research question. Okay, in my paper, or the paper that we are going to use in today, for example, in this session, I'm just taking 2 examples from published research, or I'm going to use the data file that I extracted just now, for example, from the Scopus one. So I saved that one earlier, and I have that Scopus file with me, and I'll look at that one. So the sample research question number 1 is here. It talks about what is the volume and document citation by time of distributed leadership research from this time range, 1967 or 1960 to 2020. Okay, let me go into the live Excel file. Sorry. Okay, this is the data file that I extracted from the database, and it is very important for you to clean this data. Okay, it is very important for you to clean this data, and for data cleaning, you should look into this column. For example, the year column. If there's any wrongly entered data here, then you have to clean this data file. So data cleaning is the first step that you have to use, or you have to do before starting the data analysis part. I'll show you the data cleaning at the end of the session, for example. So let me start with the analysis part first. Okay. So the first research question was it talks about the volume and the distribution of the documents or research in the area of educational, in the area of distributed leadership. In that case, we should go here and take the year column. So this is my data file. From this one, I'm taking the year column, and for the first research question, I'm putting this column here. But actually, even if it shows like the year, every year or every cell in this one represents the number of documents, because this is the document published in 2009. This is the document published in 2002 and 2007, like that. So let me name it like number of documents. Okay, number of documents. And also for the purpose of this study, I want to include the citations. Okay, for the purpose of this analysis, I want to include the citation. So I'm taking the L column from here, the cited by this one. So this paper published in 2009 is cited 1068 times. So I'm taking this column as well. Okay. And now I want to check the number of years published. What's the range, or what's the time period, so that I can use the years in a sequence. So in that case, let me check the starting year and also the end year, so we can filter. We can do the custom filtration. Okay, so I'm going to sorry, we can sort this one. For example, let me sort this one to check the largest to small. Okay, So we have 2000, 2002. What's going to be the last date? 1000. So 1967. So 1967 to 2020. We have the year. So let me write 1967, 1968, and it must go till 2020. Okay, I have put this formula here to check the number of publications, in each year. So count if, whether how many publications are published in the year of 1967. And similarly, looking at the last year, 2020, how many publications were published? Like 222 papers are published. So this column is important because I use the formula to generate this data or this result. Sorry, not the data, to generate this result, and also to check the total citations received in each and every year. I use another formula like sum if, and I'm going to check how many citations were received on 1967. Similarly, looking at all other years, we know that the number of citations are very different in different years. So let us go into visualize this one using a bar chart. So in that case, what you can do is you can take these two columns. So one column is the year column, another one is the number of publications. And for that purpose, I'm going to use the bar chart here, and here is the one. Here is the one. You can use this, and you can label the x-axis as the year, and for example, you can label the y-axis as well. So you can number of publications. Okay, so but this one is very simple, but this one shows the volume of the publication. If you want to include the next data, the citation that I took from the data file, because I want to include that one as well, in that case, you can draw another graph instead of this graph. You can draw another graph. Okay. So let me keep this one aside, and I'm going to draw another graph including the total citations. Then you can use both the bar graph and the line graph, because the line graph over the bar graph, then it's going to be more comprehensive. Then in that case, go to the more charts, and we go to the combo, and we want to include the number of publications as well. So now the number of publications are in blue color, and the total citations in the orange color. So now you can label again the x-axis, and in this case you can put the year, and so both vertical and horizontal axis you can label. So primary vertical, in this case this is the total citations. Okay, and this one is the secondary axis, you can include like the number of documents published. Okay. And then now you need to do these interpretations. You need to describe your graph. You need to do the interpretations. And from this interpretation, we understand that now this is the one. For example, from this one, we understand that the number of papers increase in year by year. And although there was a little bit fall in 2017, again, the publication, it has a good trend. And looking at the number of papers, number of citations received for those papers published in specific years. For example, the papers published in 2009 received the highest number of citations. But as you know that from this one, for example, the papers recently, the recently published papers might receive less number of citations because of the short time period. Then in that case, it is always necessary to include one more line graph here, and you can show the normalized result. For example, the normalized average citation per article. For example, this is one analysis or the result that I used in one of my paper, and in this case, I found that even the number of citations received, or the number of even the publications in the, for example, in the last 1 or 2 years are less, and in that case, we can do the normalization, and we need to do that. We need to do the normalization. Let's move into the second question. I'll take about 3 minutes to complete this one. I'm sure that Dr. Vishal is waiting for his turn. The next one is, which are the countries that contributed most to the knowledge base of distributed leadership between 1967 to 2020? For example, if you take this research question, we can go back to our data file. And in this data file, let me, okay. So in this data file, actually, I extracted data from this raw data, but using the VOSViewer software. So this is how I, let me show you that file. Okay, this one. So this is how you see that file, and I took the country, and also I took the document, these two rows, and after that I ordered this one according to the number of documents, So United States published 552, and the United Kingdom, and so on. So there are a lot of countries. But in our paper, we may be interested to include only the top 15 countries that contributed most. Then in that case, we can select the top 15 countries, or like top 20 countries. Then we can draw the graphs. For example, you can draw this graph, and you can label the axis and y-axis as well, or the horizontal and the vertical axis you can label. So it shows the number of documents published by or contributed by the different countries. And also, if you want to include, for example, if you want to include a world map showing the distribution of these publications, then you can also go here and you can draw another type of graph, and you can present in your paper. And if you want to label this one, for example, we have the highest number United States, and in that case, you can also do the labeling as well. So you can do the labeling. You can label this one. For example, you want to include the data label, so it shows like 552 United States, and even Australia 140, and even there are other softwares that you can use to draw these maps. Okay, I think that's all from my side for the time being, and I'm sure that Dr. Vishal is waiting for his turn. He has to do a lot of analysis. He has to do a lot of demonstrations as well. Dr. Faizan?
Yes,
Thank you very much.
thank you very much, Dr. Ahmad. So, do you think we can take a few questions, because there are
Yeah,
quite a lot of questions coming through? Just like,
yeah.
okay, yeah. Before we go into the questions, I again want to thank you, Dr. Ahmad, and Dr. Vishal, plus also all the participants. I just wanted to ask, where are people from? And I got a lot of comments from many different places. So thank you for joining. And I know in some countries it's pretty late right now. So thank you again for joining. Okay, let's go. There are a few questions about the importance of bibliometric analysis. So for instance, there's a question like this. Okay. Let's say this one. See, so it says, kindly please talk about how to write the utility and implications of bibliometric analysis. I'll flash a few other questions, similar questions, so then you can answer them all together, right? Because it's the same thing. Then the other question was this one. From Dr. Muslim Amin, how to develop the research question for the study, what are criteria for developing it, and stuff like this. So there's a couple of others, but maybe we can I'll start with answering these
Yeah.
questions.
Thank you very much. The first one is about the implication of the bibliometric studies. I mentioned that about the application of the bibliometric studies, and when I talk about the application of the these studies, I mentioned that we try to focus the future trends of research in the specific domain of or in the specific field. So definitely you have to include the future research area in this one, and also you can recommend other researchers to focus their research on some specific areas as well. And in terms of research collaborations, for example, if the research collaboration is few among the Asian countries, then we can recommend the universities in the Asian countries to do more collaborations if you want to be visible in the publication area and those things. So there are a lot of implications that we can mention there. And regarding the research questions, how to develop the research questions, usually when we formulate the research questions, we try to achieve the main purpose of doing this bibliometric. And while formulating the research question, we refer to the important the indicators of the bibliometric. So we can refer, for example, if you want to identify the knowledge base, or what are the key concepts in this specific field, then you can use the bibliometric indicator such as keyword. So you can go for keyword analysis and do that. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Dr. Ahmad. Let's go to another question from Daniel Olson. It says, I would like to know how to not just bibliometric analysis to focus on publication in journals, but how to include books and book chapter in the analysis.
Yeah, you can. I showed you the filtration area. Even in the Scopus, you can click there, or you can unclick there. If you want to include the book chapters, you can click. So I think we can also demonstrate that one. I already showed that one. You can include the books or book chapters or the journal articles from the left side of the Scopus database. And then you can include if you want to include.
Sure, but this would include only those books and book chapters that are indexed in Scopus, right? Because
Yeah.
you are focusing on Scopus. Okay. The similar question about Google Scholar. Can we use Google Scholar data for bibliometric analysis?
Personally, I don't recommend to use the Google Scholar because some of the documents published in the Google Scholar can be questioned in terms of the quality assurance. So I don't recommend to use Google Scholar, but instead it's always better to go for more rigorous databases.
Okay.
If you want.
Yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense. Another question is from Sajib. Is Pico needed in searching? How it is done?
I think the PICO is very important for formulating the research questions and those things. So for the search, it is always try to use the best or the excellent search strategies and try to include everything. Include all the important aspects in your search. And also the inclusion and exclusion, for that one, you can use the Prisma model. You can use Prisma. That's not an issue. And we recommend to use the Prisma for the search area.
Yeah, I want to add here actually, Prisma is becoming more or less like a standard now. If you are doing anything with literature reviews, more and more reviewers are asking for it now. In fact, even if somebody is writing a funded research grant, even there it's asked to somehow relate it to Prisma if you are using literature review based stuff. All right. There's another question from Kiran. Say, how do we merge Web of Science and Scopus file for bibliometric analysis?
Frankly, so far I have not merged the VOS file and the Scopus file, because, for example, if we want to use the data file that we extract from Web of Science, we need to keep it in the form of text file. But the file that we extract from the Scopus, it must be in the form of CSV file. And even I think when you look into the next part, you'll get much more better understanding. There are cases where we cannot merge, and always in all these analysis we have the limitation, and we need to mention those limitations. For example, if we use the Scopus database only, we need to mention that because it's a limitation, and we should include those limitations in our paper. And there may be some other ways where we can merge, but so far I have not practically merged from those two databases.
I want to ask you something very quickly, Dr. Ahmed. So most of the journals that are indexed in Web of Science, right? Those journals that are in Web of Science, they are mostly 95% also indexed in Scopus, right?
Yeah.
So I did a research where I first extracted same journals. I extracted data from Web of Science and then Scopus, and the results were different. Quite different. I was a bit shocked. I was a bit surprised because I thought those journals that are in Web of Science also are in Scopus. So normally those results should be similar. But there were a lot of missing documents, and I didn't know why. I just thought maybe it's indexing issue or something. But
we need to explore that one more.
yeah, yes.
Yeah.
I was surprised to that. Anyways, I'll ask you a few, maybe 3 or 4 more questions, and then we can go to Dr. Vaisal, right? Okay, so another question is about this one, and this many people talk about this. Does the result of bibliometric analysis gives us numbers only, and we don't need to know what is inside research papers that fall under the study?
Definitely. The bibliometric analysis is a bit different from the systematic literature review. In the systematic literature review, we have to go in depth and we have to go through the content of the articles. But nowadays, when you look at some of the bibliometric papers, you may be able to identify that some of the papers they include, for example, the methodology used in different papers based on the bibliometric analysis. So sometimes they read the abstract part sometimes, but that is true. Usually, we don't go into the inside of the paper, and exactly the bibliometric analysis is something related with the numbers. It's more quantitative and it's more of statistical one.
Yeah, I think you answered it very good. For those who are watching, it's important to understand the types of literature review that are available. So, this because the data is extracted from databases, and it's only the bibliometric or metadata that is provided through databases, which includes only numbers. And at most, what you can do is just look at probably the co-author networks or that type of stuff, but not really what is inside the paper. I think one one area where people can actually look into what's in the paper to some extent is abstracts that you mentioned. And there are many, many papers that are looking at topical modeling from within the abstract or keywords, but not really what's inside the paper, right? Okay, perfect. So there's another one here. There are two parts of this question from Muhammad. Should the researcher apply exclusion criteria before starting to analyze the data? Or she or he needs to start screening the title abstract, then full text so that they ensure capturing the right documents?
You need to apply the exclusion criteria when you do the search. So that's one. I don't see that question now, Dr. Faisal. What's the other part?
Sorry. I just clicked on it twice.
Okay, so yeah, during the search you need to do that, or need to start screening the title, abstract, then full text. Just now, even we mentioned that we are looking at the bibliometric information available. For example, even in the title, it's there. Even the keywords, for example, those things. But we don't really look into the full text, the context. But we need the reference section because it's very important when we talk about other different entities. I'm sure that Dr. Vishal will mention those things in his part.
The other part of this question is this one. My experience with extracting documents was that these databases usually bring documents not related to a topic of interest.
Yeah, sometimes this happens because of our data search, the keywords that we use. In that case, if it is mentioned in the abstract, that article might be extracted. And for example, if it is not, for example, it's totally out of the scope, sometimes you may check the titles of the papers, and we need to do some sort of data cleaning if it is there, if it problem arises.
Mm-hmm. All right. Last question for you, Dr. Ahmed, is from Spain. I would like to know, is it important to compare our results with other databases or other studies related to mine especially? Thank you.
We don't have to compare that. We have to mention in our paper because our search is based on the Scopus database or it's based on the Web of Science, and we need to mention the limitations of this paper. That's enough. You don't have to do the comparison. But for example, if you're interested to do some sort of comparison, it's now very different, doing for different purpose. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. While we are going to invite Dr. Vesal into the stream, I want to ask you this, Dr. Ahmed. Several times these days, unfortunately, the way researchers are brought up, many people are looking at exact answers like 2 plus 2 is equal to 4, right? So it's all the time you may look at questions like, what is the acceptable sample size for this, how many items do we need in the question, really absolute answers. So for this database search or something, there's a question that often comes, and that is, which one is the best database to go with? You may have heard of this question many times.
The best database.
Yes.
It depends. It depends. For example, if it is the social science area, especially the educational area, then we prefer to go for the Scopus. For example, if it is the medicine area, maybe the PubMed is going to be the best one for their search. So it depends on the areas of research.
Sure. So I think what you are saying is that as researchers, especially young researchers who want to do this, need to understand your own discipline very well, right? Which
Exactly.
databases are the best databases for your discipline? Perfect. So, all right, let's now we can invite Dr. Vishal into the stream so that we can have him continue with the session. Dr. Vishal.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Faizan, and Dr. Ahmed as well. First of all, let me say good evening from Maldives. And I'm very happy and honored to be invited by Dr. Faizan into this platform. Dr. Faizan, Dr. Ahmed, am I audible?
Yes, yes, perfectly
All
fine.
right.
Yes, thank you.
And let me also try and see if I can share my screen now. Is my screen visible to you now?
Yes.
All right. Perfect. Thank you. Okay. So I will have to try to squeeze in my content tonight. So basically, I would once again like to thank Dr. Ahmed because you have made my work very easy. You've came all the way from the very basics and in fact covered some of the sample research questions that we want to demonstrate to our participants tonight. And yes, here I am with from where you stopped with research question 3. Dr. Ahmed demonstrated how to do analysis with respect to total number of publications and citations, and also with respect to contributions from various countries. Now here, I want to discuss about a particular research question, which is going to do some journal metric analysis. My sharing is actually based on my work. Like Dr. Ahmed spoke about his work, his own publication. So you may, just to avoid confusions, like I am going to talk only about a paper which I have published. So my question, as you can see, is coming from a different background. So the question reads like, I want to find out the top journals which has published the 100 most cited articles on workplace learning. So I'm looking at my own work, workplace learning, and what are their characteristics. So I'm going to do a journal analysis. What are the top journals and where do they come from? What are their characteristics and all those things? And in order to do that, the data that we need for this part of this data is already in the data file. Now, Dr. Ahmed demonstrated to all of you how you can actually download a bibliometric data file from Dimension. And he also, with the help of slides, showed all of us to how to download the bibliometric data file from Scopus. So in that Scopus data file itself, you will have a lot of information about the journals as well. So let me, actually my part is less of slides and more of like demonstration. So let me try to escape my presentation and then, yes, this is how the data file looks like as you're already familiar with. So in the data file, one of the fields is the source field called source titles. Can you see my data file, Dr. Ahmed?
Yes.
Okay, fine, perfect. So as you can see, the source titles are where the journal titles are, the name of the journals are. And then So all that I'm going to do is I'm going to actually count how many well, before that, let me show you this one. Now, this is what I'm going to arrive at actually. Now, once I'm done with my analysis, I want to come up with something like this. Actually, this is what I came up with in my paper. So I have the list of journals, the topmost journals which has published the most cited articles in that particular field. So I have 6 columns. I have the total publications, which means the number of documents published in this particular journal, which is from my own data file. Okay, it doesn't mean that these are the number of all the publications published in that particular journal, but these are the publications published in that journal which are included in my data file. Okay, so total publications, I have total citations, I have CPP, that means simply the average citation per paper, and then I have some other matrices as well. Now, the first the information, the data in the first 3 columns, this data is purely coming from the data file that we download from either Scopus or whatever database that we use. So I'm going to show you how I get these figures, okay, where the total publication comes and where the total citations comes and all that. So I go to my data file. So I use a kind of filtration here. I can sort this one. And as you can see, for example, now this belongs to one particular journal. Now, each of this entry is a publication. So now, if you sort this, you get all the journals here, and you can count how many. As I can see, it's 17 now. So I can see now that simply means that in the Journal of Academic Medicine, 17 publications have been published. Okay, but this data file which I'm demonstrating you is not the data file from which I produced the table. So please keep that in mind. Okay. But I'm just showing you where the data is coming from. So one piece of data is coming from this field called the source title field. You can simply sort it and then count it. And the other piece of data. So from this field, actually, you're getting 2 pieces of information. You get the journal name. You also can count the number of publications, because each row is a publication. By this particular journal, you can actually count all of them, calculate all of them from the citations column. Now I'm showing you, I've showed you a very manual way of doing this. And of course, there are easier and some automatic ways of doing this as well. And in order to do that, you have to use VOSViewer. In a while, I'm going to show you how to use VOSViewer. Now, if you use VOSViewer, VOSViewer will do this calculation for you. Okay, and this right now, the file I'm showing you now is the file generated by VOSViewer, the CSV file which we can export from VOSViewer. As you can see, I have all the journal names here, though they are not repeated, because VOSViewer has done the counting for me already. So I have the journal names here. I have the number of documents here already. So I don't have to count them. So I can see from computers and education, I have 17 documents. Again, I must tell you that I'm working with 2 different data files. So the name of the journals and the numbers may be different. Okay. And also you can see the number of citations as well. So if you use VOSViewer and export the CSV file from VOSViewer, the work is easy. If you're very familiar with Excel, you can use wonderful formulas to do all the counting if and all those things to generate these numbers yourself without using VOSViewer as well. Okay, so I think I've shown you where I got the journal names, where I got the number of publications, and where I got the number of citations. And the next column, which I showed you just now, CPP, is just a manual calculation. It's just total citation divided by TP, total publications, to get the average number of publications for that particular journal. And then I will also show you where I got this site score, SNP, and SJR. Now, these are all journal matrices, which we cannot actually get from the bibliometric data file that we usually download. But you can get it anyway from now. If you're talking about Scopus database, You can just go to Scopus. I will show you Scopus data website, Scopus website. And I think, as many of you know, in order to actually download the bibliometric data file, you need to have subscription to Scopus. But in order to do this one, you don't have to have the subscription. Okay, in order to access to what I'm showing you right now, you don't need any subscription. You just go to Scopus website, you just click sources here, and this will populate the list of all the journals indexed under Scopus. Now, you scroll down a little bit, you see the name of the journals here, and you see this is where the site score comes from. You see it's 461 for this particular journal. Now, in order to get the details for any particular journal, you can write the name of that particular journal, choose this one as the title, choose title here, and then write the journal title, the name of the journal here. You will get that specific information here. So this is where you get the site score from. And if you click this particular arrow on the right-hand side, you will get the other details as well. You see the SNP score is there, the SJR score is also there. So this is where I got the data from. Okay, and then I compile everything, put it in one beautiful table, and present it in my paper. Okay, now let me go back to my table again. There is another piece of information in this table is like apart from the SJR score, there is the key ranking as well. We call it Q1, Q2, and up to Q4. Now, where did I get this information from? This information is coming from this website. From Simago, I don't know, different people may pronounce it differently, but let me call it now as Simago JR, right? Journal ranking website. So this is the website. You can just go to that website. I will demonstrate. I will show you here where on my screen. This is the website of Simago JR. Now, if you want to find out about any particular journal, you can just now type the name of the journal. The list will get populated. You can just choose it. Now, if it is indexed in Scopus, usually the journals indexed in Scopus will be shown in SJR website. Maybe there may be some time delay for the journals to come up in SJR website, but usually it should come, although with some delay at times. So now this is showing for the Journal of Teaching and Teacher Education. If we just scroll down, of course, you see many other information as well. I think the page is getting loaded. Okay, so let me be a bit patient here. Okay, going down slow. As you can see, this journal has been there for quite a long time. There's a now I want to show you this one at the bottom. Yeah, at the bottom of, not at the bottom, I mean halfway between the page. You see, this is where the key ranking come from. Of course, on top also we have the key ranking for the various fields. Now, but this is the best key ranking for the particular journal, and this is where I got the Q1 or Q2 or Q3, whatever information that I have included in my table. All right, so I think I've explained to you this where I got the data from. And now, because we don't have time, actually we cannot go into the conceptual explanation of what site score is, what SNP is, what SJR is. But these are just journal matrices used by different databases, but this is specifically from Scopus. Okay, you can go to Scopus website. They will give very beautiful explanations of what is this and how this is calculated and all that. Okay, but these are just matrices used to assess and evaluate journals. Okay, I think that's what I can say for now, just in the interest of time and to cover whatever we have left for you. Okay, so I think that's about research question 3. And I've tried to show you how we can actually answer a question which is asked about asking about journals. Okay, And I think I have demonstrated to you how we can use journal matrices to answer such a research question. And of course, in relation to a question that was asked just now, I mean, before I came into screen, I think, of course, the analysis and the results are usually numbers and graphs and these sort of things. But of course, in the discussions, you will have a lot of meaning into it. It's not only the table. After the table, you have the interpretation of the table, and you have the discussion of whatever results you've got. You also discuss it in relation to other published papers and well. So it's not just a table. Okay, if you read a bibliometric paper, you will get to know there are many things that you can say in relation to the results that you obtain. Okay, I think now we have come to the one of the most interesting parts of this particular webinar. Now we're going to talk about bibliometric network analysis. Okay. So far, we have been playing with Excel, and maybe some of you may get very bored playing with those graphs and numbers and all that. Now, okay. But now, of course, you have a beautiful map to look at. Now, we call it a bibliometric network. And this is basically how a network may look like. Very complicated, right? Pieces of dots and lines, and you wonder what is going on behind this network. But to make it very simple, this is all about a network. A network has only two elements, okay, two basic elements. The nodes represented in the form of a circle or ovals, okay, or sometimes it can be displayed as rectangles as well. And then we have the nodes actually represent entities or units. It can be authors, it can be documents, it can be institutions, and so on and so forth. And then the other component in a network is the lines. They are called the edges, okay, or the links. They show the relationship between any two entities, any two units in your network. So this is simple. So this is how, I mean, this is the basic, the fundamentals of a network. So you have two pieces. The nodes represent some unit of analysis, can be author or something, and the edges shows the kind of relationship or the strength of relationship. If you go, I'm going to go live into VOSViewer in a while. Now, if you have a thicker line, that will indicate a stronger relationship, and vice versa. Okay, all right. So how can we actually generate the kind of map that I've shown you? 2 slides back. Well, there are a lot of softwares available on the market which you can use to generate bibliometric networks like that. And this is in this actually slide. It's a very few number of softwares that we have listed there. There are many more available, and out of all those, VOSViewer is one of the, of course, for me, one of the best software, because it's freely available, and anybody can access to it. You can go to the website www.vosviewer.com, download the software, use it freely for academic purpose. Okay, so in this session, we are only going to demonstrate how you can use VOSViewer to come up with bibliometric network analysis with beautiful networks like this. Okay, VOSViewer supports data from a variety of data sources. Dr. Ahmed has already explained to you where you can get bibliometric data from. He told about Web of Science, he told about Scopus, PubMed, Dimensions, and so on and so forth. So VOSViewer actually supports data from many different databases. Okay, and of course, we're not going to demonstrate everything. We're only going to demonstrate how to use data from Scopus, because that's the data file we're going to use tonight. All right. Now, this slide shows you the different types of networks which VOSViewer can currently do for us. Okay, VOSViewer can generate a citation network, a co-authorship network, a co-citation network, bibliographic coupling network, and co-occurrence network. I'm going to tell you what these are before I actually go into the live demonstration. All right, so a citation network will simply show who are being cited and who has cited who and this kind of things. Or if it is based on documents, which document has cited which other documents, and so on and so forth. A co-occurrence network, particularly a co-occurrence of keyword network, usually we use keywords for co-occurrence, will demonstrate you which keywords have actually been co-occurred. I mean, co-occurred means two keywords occurring together. Okay, so which keywords have occurred like this mostly in the given field, and what are the kind of relationship within these influential keywords. The co-authorship network will show you which are the who are the authors who have actually collaborated, okay, ventured into collaborations in the production of publications in the given field. So in the form of network, it will show you the collaborative relationship between authors. Now, it can be done based on institutions. It can be done based on countries as well. So a co-authorship will demonstrate you the kind of collaboration that is happening between authors or between institutions or countries. And then the co-citation is like this. Now, if you have two publications, A and B, and there is a third publication, C, which has cited both A and B, then we say A and B have been co-cited once because it's cited by publication C. And now when it is also cited by D, now we can say that A and B has a co-citation of strength 2. And then when it's cited by publication E, it increases to co-citation strength of 3, and it goes on like this. That's co-citation. Okay. A third publication is co-citing, meaning citing together another pair of publications. Okay, and then bibliographic coupling is all about the reference list. Okay, now you have a publication A, you have a publication B, and in publication A's reference list, we can see publication C being referred to in the reference list. Okay, we can also see the same publication reference in the reference list of publication B. Now, if this happens, we can say that A and B are bibliographically coupled simply because they have the same reference in the reference list, same reference C. They also have the same reference D. They also have the same reference E. So now we can say A and B have a bibliographic coupling strength of 3 simply because they have 3 common references in the reference list. Okay, so that is the concept of bibliographic coupling. Now, okay, now we're talking about bibliographic networks. Now, what are the kind of research questions we can actually, for which we can actually use the network analysis? Let's look at this one, an interesting question. What is the intellectual structure of knowledge base on workplace learning? A huge question, a huge question. So intellects here can be the authors, it can be the documents, or it can be the journals. You're just going to analyze how they are related to each other. Okay, what kind of different themes can be actually generated from this particular network? And in order to answer this question, in my opinion, there are different analyses that we can use. We can use either a citation network, we can use a co-citation network. We may also use a bibliographic coupling network, because all of those will show us the kind of relationship that is occurring within the domain of a workplace learning. In order for the purpose of demonstration, I'm going to show you how to do a co-citation network. Okay, now, so the result will be something like this. Okay, this is the end product. Now, let me show you the process. Now, let me show you my desktop. I have VOSViewer installed here. This is a very simple software. You just download it from the website VOSViewer.com. Now I've already opened the VOSViewer and done the analysis. Okay, but when you open the VOSViewer for the first time, it will just be a blank sheet, okay, a white sheet. So, but anyway, because I've done it before, you can see the map. Now let me demonstrate you how to begin. So once the VOSViewer is open, you see the blank sheet here. You just go to create from the left-hand side. Go to create. And then choose the second option, create a map based on bibliographic data. Now I'm showing you this option because of the way that we are going to do the analysis. This is the case you will use when you have downloaded a bibliometric data file from a database. Okay, so you will choose the second option. Of course, there are other ways by which you can do the analysis, and therefore you have other options as well. We are not going to venture into those now. So you choose the second option, create a map based on bibliographic data, and then go ahead. Okay, go to next. From the next screen, you choose the first one, read data from bibliographic data files, because we have the data file with us already. So we're asking VOSViewer to read the data from that specific file, and then go to next. Now here on top, you can see several tabs, not several tabs, a few tabs actually. As you can see, we have Web of Science, we have Scopus, we have Dimension, we have PubMed. We also have Crossref, but it can be accessed in another route. Okay, so because we have a Scopus data file, I will have to choose Scopus from this the second tab. Okay, the Scopus tab, and then browse from here to locate your file. Okay, this is just a very normal thing for any person using computer. You just locate your file from wherever you stored it. Okay, just load the file. In my case, I have already loaded it, so I will not do it again. So it's already loaded. I click next. Now, in your case, if you're loading the file for the first time, it will take some time for VOSViewer to come up to this screen. But because I have preloaded it, VOSViewer has taken me immediately to the next screen. And that's why actually I've preloaded it to save time. Okay, now I said I'm going to do a co-citation network. Now we're going to answer a research question called, what is the intellectual structure of knowledge? Okay, and in order to answer that, a possible network analysis is co-citation analysis. As you can see, there are other analyses which I've already explained in my slides. These are the other analyses that we can use. Now from all of these, I will choose co-citation. Okay, and the counting method, I will leave it at default as full counting, because this is entirely another topic in bibliometric analysis, and we cannot talk about it now. So in order to avoid confusions, I will just leave it at default. Okay, leave it at full counting method. But the other thing on the right-hand side is important. You need to choose the unit of analysis. There are three options available for you. You can either use cited references. Okay, these are the references in the documents. Okay, and then the cited sources, these are the journals or the books or the book chapters. Okay, from where these publications are coming from. These are the sources. And then cited authors, of course, these are the authors that either appear in the documents or either appear in the reference lists of that are there in your data file. All right, now we go next. So we have chosen co-citation, and then from the unit of analysis, we chose cited authors. Why it is taking so long now? I did it before to save time. Okay, anyway, all right. Now we have come up with this screen here. You can choose various parameters. Now there is no hard and fast rule of, for example, now if I read this, it is very small. I will read it for you. Minimum number of citations of an author, this is set as 20. This just means that if an author has less than 20 citations, they will not be included in this analysis. Okay, now there's no rule to say it should be 20 or 30 or 50 or 10 or whatever. It's up to the researcher. And also, now in order for you to actually make a decision, you can look at this number here. Now, when you set the parameter like this, now the line just at the bottom, I mean, just below that, reads that there are 587 authors who meet this particular criteria. I think 587 is a good number to be displayed in a network. Now, if you feel that this is too much, you can just increase this threshold and you will see that the number is coming down. If you think that's just fine, just leave it at 20. If you see that if it's too less, just lower this threshold. You will and see if you get more number of authors here, a bigger number here. Okay, it's up to the researcher, but you have to report this. That's what is important. You have to report what you have done, maybe at the bottom of a particular figure or table that you put in your article. Okay, anyway, I will leave it at 20 and click next. I will just leave this, but I think, yeah, this is important as well. Now, as you can see, for each 587, here I can see the number 587. Here also I can see 587. If it is matches, for me, I think it's okay. But for example, if there is a number like 1,000 or 2,000, something like that, in the top row, in the top sentence, but you get something like 1,000 here in this box, I think you need to change in that case. For me personally, I would prefer to match this number and this number as well. Otherwise, that says there are many possible authors which can be included in the analysis, I mean, all those authors may not be included. And now what I mean to say is, if you have something like 2,000 here, and then in this box we have something like 1,000, that means there are possible 2,000 authors which can be displayed in the network, but only 1,000 will be displayed. So I don't want that to happen. If you want that to happen, of course, you're happy, you can proceed it. Okay, but for me personally, I would like to have to match these two numbers. Okay. Next, now this is a very important step. Although you do that data cleaning in the initial phase, you should still check if there are any errors in the data, because many times there can be errors in the data that we download from any database, I think. So now, as you can see, this is the author column. So you can go down, scroll down the author column and see if there is something suspicious. I mean, like if you go along, maybe somewhere down the list, there is Islamic University of Maldives. You definitely know Islamic University of Maldives cannot be an author. So what you can do, you just untick it from here. Okay, you're not going to go all the way to the data file and find this particular one and delete it. No, you're going to just untick that particular element from here. Okay, so you have to go all the way down. Okay, all the way down and see if there is no error. Make sure there is no error. Alternatively, maybe if you're very happy with working with Excel, you can proceed with the analysis, export the CSV file, and do the check using Excel or whatever techniques that you know to identify it. But anyway, you will have to do the unchecking from this stage. Okay, so let's say all the data is okay. There are no wrong entries here. You just click finish. And of course, I should get the same map now because I did it a while ago. Yeah, we get the same map because I did it before. Now, what actually this tells us? Now, actually, I think this is something important. On the right-hand side, you see the weights. The weights are actually the thing that decides the size of these nodes. Okay. Now, right now, the bigger circles indicates that these are the authors who has been mostly cited. It's because you see in the weights, this section, I have actually by default citations is selected. Now, if you click the arrow, you can see there are other options available too. Okay, but I think it's meaningful to keep it as citation. The other things are links. These are just relationships between authors. These are total link strengths. So you can actually change how to actually, you can instruct VOSViewer, what it has to look at in order to size these nodes. Now, for this particular analysis, I think citation, keeping it a citation is good enough. So the bigger circles represents those authors who have been cited many times, or most number of times. Now, how to actually interpret this one? Now you see some you don't actually know who the authors are. I mean, in full, you only see part of it, part of the name. Sometimes if there are two authors, you don't see the other authors' names, and so on and so forth. But however, what you can see from this is that now the authors actually, they are clustered into 4 groups by color. We have the green, the blue, the red, and the gold. Now this tells us, each color tells us a kind of theme. We call it a cluster in network analysis. Now the clusters are kind of themes. They actually shows relationships among authors. If you have relationships among authors, that means it's a relationship among the publications as well, in a way, because authors are actually affiliated or associated with their own publications. So in a way, this is telling us that there are 4 distinct schools of thought in the domain of workplace learning. Of course, these are not numbers. Well, I mean, to interpret it like this is not numbers, this is all qualitative, but it's coming from a quantitative analysis. It's coming from a graph like this or a map like this. But this is how you can interpret it later on. Of course, this can only be interpreted by somebody who knows the field. Now, if you are away from the field of workplace learning, it will be very difficult for you to find out, I mean, what they mean. And there's one thing else. Of course, by looking at the names, you won't know what they're talking about at all. So you have to go deeper into this. You will have to, because now there are 2 things you can do actually. I mean, once you come to this stage, one thing is you can either export this as an image file like this. You can save an image file, which you can beautifully display in your manuscript, in your article. Okay, so you need to save it. As soon as you're happy with the map, you can save it. VOSViewer does not allow you to save your work. Okay, when you're happy, as soon as you're happy, just export whatever you want. Okay, the 2 major forms of export are the image format. So you can save this as an image file. And the other very important thing is you need to save, click the save button and use this row, okay, the first row, to save the CSV file for this particular network, which is very important, which is the one I showed you in the very beginning when I did the journal analysis. Okay, so you just click browse. Okay, click this button, choose CSV from here, give a name for your file. Say in this case, I did the analysis for intellectual. So I think I did a co-citation analysis. So I can name this one as co-citation, and I did it based on authors. So I will type the name co-citation based on authors, click OK. Now this will save you, and again click OK. In the first step, I gave the name, and you can also choose the location. Let me see. Yeah, let me see if I will write it again. Co-citation, authors. Okay, I'm saving it on desktop. Okay, and then let me show you my desktop. Now it's there, co-citation. Now this is a very important file, because now once you actually finished playing with VOSViewer, you cannot save this file. I mean, as it is within VOSViewer, you cannot do that. So whatever interpretation that you want to make, you have to make while you are in VOSViewer. And the other useful file data is actually the CSV file that you actually exported just now, because this file will show you. Now I'm waiting for my very slow computer to show me what is inside the CSV file. Now I have to be patient here again. I want to be very fast because I know time is running short. But But unfortunately, my computer is not helping me. I hope you would bear with me. Okay, so I think you can see the file now. You see these are the authors' names, and we can see the cluster is, these clusters are actually the based on the colors. So we can know from here also we can see the groups of authors by actually filtering it based on the clusters. We can also see many other important information. You see, these are the number of links, this is the number of citations. So even though you just close VOSViewer, you have the information, the data here. Here you can see the number of links. That means how many co-citations, how many links this particular author has. That means with 160 authors, this particular author has links with 160 other authors. Okay, and link strength means how many times, because even though you are having a relationship with 160 authors, you may have relationship with one author many times. So your link strength may be more than the number of links you have. So all the information that you have actually is here in this CSV file. If you go to VOSViewer and just hover your mouse in at any point, the same information that you have in the VOSViewer, in the CSV file, can be seen at the bottom of the of your page, of your window. It's very small right now. It's very small right now. I'm not sure whether you can see it, but at the top, at the bottom of your window, you can see now. Right now, I'm hovering your mouse on Bill, this particular author, and at the bottom, I can see which cluster he or she belongs to, the number of links, the link strength, and citations that he has. He has 100, and he or she has 1,034 citations. Okay, the same information will be there in your or in this CSV file as well. If you actually filter it and sort it, you will be able to locate this information easily. So, I mean, to sum up everything, now we know, we know that the structure of knowledge on workplace learning, they have 4 different themes. You can say themes. And in order to find what actually is these themes, what each of these themes represent, then you will have to go back to to find out those things, you will have to go back to the original documents. We didn't do this on documents. How you can go to that? Well, you have the author's names already in your CSV file, which is generated from VOSViewer. You know that author's name. You can just copy this author's name, go to your original data file, which you downloaded from Scopus or whichever data source you have, search for that particular author, make sure that this is the correct author, and look at the document. Now, when you can look at the document, you also have the abstract with you. So you know what kind of things they are talking about in this particular document. So you have to actually do some sort of qualitative work as well in order to actually make meaning of what is actually displayed in a network like this. So just saying that Bill is the most highly cited author, and then he has got 1,034 citations, and he has linked with 160 other authors isn't enough. I mean, to me, it's not enough. Of course, it's important. It's important. It's a very important information because it tells us who are the influential authors and how much influence they have. But in addition to that, if you want to make some meaning of how knowledge is produced, or the landscape of knowledge in this particular domain, you will have to go much deeper into this kind of analysis. All right. So I think I have spent much time on this because I want to make the rest a bit faster, because the rest of the networks all will look the same. Okay, now if you understand how a network looks like, what the nodes represent, and how to interpret a network in this manner, the rest is very easy. Of course, in VOSViewer, you just play later on. You can actually rotate the maps and then flip it around. You can change the size, make it more beautiful or less beautiful, and depending on because you have other parameters you can play with. Okay. So there are many ways by which you can actually make your maps more attractive, but we don't have time to go into all those. You just open VOSViewer, play with it, and then get to know the skills yourself. It will be more helpful, I would say. Okay, now going back to my slides, let me show you this research question number 5. Now this question wants to find out the major keywords, the major concepts that actually have been explored in the topic on any particular domain. In my case, in the domain of on the topic of workplace learning. So in order to identify the concepts per se, one of the best ways I think is to go for keywords, because keywords are actually contain the essential concepts that you want to actually convey in any publication. So in order to, one of the best way to identify the concepts in a given domain, you can use a keyword analysis. We call it a keyword co-occurrence analysis. Okay, so I will demonstrate how on VOSViewer. Go to create. Now I spent much time before. Now I will not spend that much time now. Okay, go to create, choose the second option, go next, choose the first option, go next, because nothing is changed. It's the same procedure. Okay, I'm following. You locate your file, okay, and go next. Now I want to do a keyword co-occurrence analysis. So you choose the particular type of network from here on the left-hand side. I will choose co-occurrence from here. Okay, choose co-occurrence from here. I will leave the counting method at default, and the unit of analysis, of course, are all keywords. Okay, because we're going to do a keyword co-occurrence. But there are 3 options available for us. Whether we can only use the keywords provided by the authors. You know, when we write our articles, we provide keywords ourselves at the bottom of our abstract. Now these are all the keywords. Now, the indexing services may use other keywords also in order to, they may associate other keywords in addition to the keywords that you provide. So if you want to use all the keywords, your keywords as well as other keywords that indexing services may have associated with your publication, then you will use all keywords. In my case, I think I will use all keywords, and then proceed next. Now, like in the case of authors in the previous network, you can choose your parameters. You can increase this one, decrease this one, read what is written there. This time it's number of occurrences of keywords, co-occurrence of keywords. Okay, not simply occurrences. That means some 2 words, a pair of words occur in. So we're looking at a threshold of 5, and we get 493 entries meeting this particular criteria. And if you're not happy with this one, you can either increase this threshold or decrease this threshold. In my case, I will leave it like that. Go next, go next. Here again, please check, go through this list and see if there are any, senseless words as keywords. Okay, because a person who is in the field can be, can actually identify which can be a keyword or which can. For example, United Kingdom is the name of a country. Now, if you really want to keep it as a keyword to appear in your network, you can leave it. But otherwise, I feel it's not a concept at all. So I will not include it in my analysis. So just untick it. Okay. If you feel okay, I want to include, but for me, I think if you want to know about the concept, I should delete things like this: the names of countries, names of maybe universities or institutions, and things like that. And of course, At this stage, actually, particularly when you do a keyword analysis, there will be words with different spellings, or maybe with plural form and singular form. For example, methodology, and there may be another word called methodologies, perception, and then maybe another word called perceptions. So these kind of things actually has to be managed by using a thesaurus file, which is another level of doing the analysis, which we cannot demonstrate tonight. Okay, but that has to be actually addressed. If you see that there are different spellings, there are plural forms and singular forms, and different ways of writing the same word, and of course you will have to, in order to capture it, I mean, in the proper way, you will have to apply a thesaurus file. A thesaurus file, what it will do is it will actually instruct VOSViewer to actually treat different variations of the same keyword as one keyword. Okay, so in order to do that, you have to use a thesaurus file. Okay, that has to be created by the researcher. Okay, anyway, we cannot do it right now. I will just click finish now. Assuming that everything is okay, all the keywords are proper, I will ask VOSViewer to give me the map, a very beautiful map, hopefully. Oh, wow. So we see this one, very colorful. Again, the colors are clusters. They can actually tell us, okay, these are a different group of, a different concept. This can be, for example, a red may be showing you a different theme of keywords. Okay, closely related concepts. The blue is another cluster. It can be, a cluster can always be meant as a theme. Okay, we have the green theme, we have the gold theme, we have the orange theme, we have the purple theme, and all those. Okay, if the you can see some red dots are actually a bit far away from other red dots. Of course, the red cluster would ideally represent the same school of thought, but they are far away because they may be a little conceptually a little far from this particular theme, but because they have been co-occurred in publications, they have been clustered in this particular color. Okay, anyway, the interpretation is quite the same in any network. So you see the colors as clusters, and in order to find out, now I think in this case you don't need to go to the documents to understand what it is, because you have the keywords here itself. So these can be like the codes in a qualitative analysis. So these keywords can actually tell you, give you some kind of qualitative meaning to tell you what kind of theme all of them form together. Okay, and if you want to go deeper for this analysis, I don't think you can actually locate the documents. Okay, like in the case of authors, you will be able to locate the documents and find out what's inside. But in this one, I think this is self-explanatory, because you have the keywords, you can make some meaning of these keywords. All right, so that is that research question. Now I'm running out of time. Well, I think this is the last research question. Let me also demonstrate this to you very quickly. This actually wants to find out the kind of collaboration among authors. Okay, so the question is like, what is the nature of collaboration that is evident in the publication of workplace learning? All right, so we can do a co-authorship network this time, because in order to find the collaboration, we will do a co-authorship network. I'm demonstrating right now very fast. In this phase, I will choose co-authorship. Okay, so I have used co-citation already. I have used co-occurrence just now. Now I'm using co-authorship. When do we use co-authorship? When we want to find the collaboration. Okay, and from the right-hand side, you can see the analysis can be based on authors, it can be based on institutions or organizations, it can be based on countries as well. So it's up to you. Now, if you want to find out the collaboration between authors, choose authors and go next. I want to keep this very simple, so I will not change any of these parameters. Just read it when you use VOSViewer, and to change the parameters as you wish, depending on how much results you get here. Okay, always observe this number at the bottom of these boxes when you play with the parameters. Okay, go next. Again, here at this phase, make sure you read through the author column. Make sure, because we are basing the analysis on authors, make sure there is not something like Florida State University or something like that in this column. Okay, if there is anything, just exclude it from the analysis. Okay, so I finish. It says that this is I think an important message. It says there are 68 authors, but only 23 can be connected together. Probably the rest have no collaboration at all. So it's asking whether VOSViewer should demonstrate all the 68, I mean those, including those who do not have any collaboration, or VOSViewer should only demonstrate the 23 who has some collaboration. In my case, I prefer to use only those who have some collaboration because I want to do a collaboration network. So I will say yes. Otherwise, you say no. Still, VOSViewer will go forward and give you a map, but it will demonstrate all the other authors who have no collaboration as well. But in my case, I will say yes, so that it will only demonstrate to me those who have some collaboration. Now, these maps look very inferior. Well, I can make it beautiful. I can make it beautiful by playing with these things, make it more attractive, rotate it, and do all those things. But of course, now this tells us, okay, these red group of authors, they have close collaboration. This blue group of authors, they have close collaboration. And also we can see the red, in some of the authors in the red cluster, they have some collaboration with these authors. Now we can see where they come from. We can see what kind of work they do by looking at our original data file. Okay, and we can also analyze and see if great collaborators, if they are like publishing a particular type of articles, or if they are having a collaboration with a particular group of people, and so on and so forth. So all these things can be interpreted from this network. Okay, you can also choose the weights. Now itself it's based on documents. So the bigger circle tells us this particular author has many documents published. You can also change it based on citation. Now you see the network, the size of the circles have changed. So you can do this analysis on various methods, on various aspects. All right. So this is about networks. I think I have to finish in 5 minutes. Yeah, only 10 minutes left. So I should finish in 5 minutes. So that's all about networks. I just demonstrated you 3 types of networks. There are other networks you can do, and networks are very beautiful things which you can use in your analysis. And I mean, it will give you, meaningful interpretations. If you want to make some sense of the publications in a given domain. Okay, now we want to talk about publications as well. I think many of you may have some interest in writing a bibliometric research paper. How does a bibliometric research paper look like? Not very different from any other research paper. So we have the same, traditional sections, introductions, and all those things. But I think sometimes the literature review sections can be a bit shorter. When compared to many other genres of research papers. But of course, it depends on the field, and it depends on the author as well. I think, because I have seen some bibliometric papers which has some lengthy literature reviews as well. But there are other papers which actually sort of merges literature review section into the introduction section and have it maximum, say, 4 or 5 paragraphs, and that is done. Introduction and literature review together, and then you jump into methodology section. And then with regard to, so there can be some variations, in the format. With regard to findings and discussions, you can again have it as 2 separate sections, but I think in many bibliometric articles, these 2 are merged together. It's not that you have to do it like that, but it's, I think, just a preference. It's up to you. Maybe if you want to write a bibliometric paper, first search for bibliometric papers in your particular domain, and then or a closer domain, and then see how they have actually structured their paper. And then one important aspect is conclusion and implications. Dr. Ahmed has already answered one of the questions. In this is an important actually section of a bibliometric paper. I would argue that you should actually throw some light on future research, because you are actually analyzing the published work in a given field, and you must actually tell something about what people do in the future in this particular domain. I mean, that's a very essential part of the implication section in the bibliometric paper. I just wanted to actually show you some samples. It's there, but I don't have time to go into detail. This is a sample methods section. I just wanted to highlight that the method section has to be clear enough so that people know what keywords you used, which database you used, how you did the searching, and what kind of filters you used, and all that. Okay. And yeah, this is an example of the implication section from a tourism, hospitality and tourism journal. Clearly, it actually tells us where is the direction for future research. Okay. Now, where can I publish bibliometric papers? Now, although the bibliometric can be associated with library science, as you can see from this particular graph. Now, this is a very recent graph generated from Scopus. As you can see, there are journals outside library science area. We have seen, as you can see, there is Sustainability Switzerland, PLOS ONE, Nature, Journal of Cleaner Production, and many different varieties of journals. Now, if you see these examples, we can see European Journal of Education Research. Now we have published in this particular journal. We can see the one on the right is published on Journal of Workplace Learning. This is the one that I actually demonstrated tonight to all of you. So it's published there as well. So it doesn't come from library science area. Yeah, this publication on top is published in International Journal of Online Journal of Educational Leadership. So we can see that area as well. The one on at the bottom is a bibliometric review published in Journal of Sustainability. So we can see that also coming up there. Now this one, the one on the left is related to entrepreneurial finance. The one on the left is related to economics. So we see it's coming from many different areas. Now this one is very important. This one published in Journal of Hospitality and Tourism Management. It's the bibliometric analysis of that particular journal published in that journal itself. Now this one is very interesting, relating tourism to geography, tourism landscape nexus. This is also a bibliometric analysis. So we can see that bibliometric analysis is done from almost any field, from social science, from medicine, from computer science, from other fields, business, economics, finance, biology, chemistry, and all those arts and human sciences. So we see bibliometrics is growing in many different areas. Now the final thought. Now, bibliometric is actually useful to understand knowledge in a given field. Now, if you think there are enough publications in any given field, bibliometric analysis is, it's not only for library scientists, it's for any researcher, as you have seen in the previous slide. It's a growing area, it's a growing genre of research papers. And I think for those who are looking for publications, this is a potential field or potential area which you can look at. Sit at your desk, collect the data, and then do the analysis. And of course, if you won't, do the collaboration with someone and then try to get it published. So I think I've taken much time, and I should hand over the session to Dr. Faisal. Now, thank you all for being here. I think if we have time, we can accommodate some questions.
Sure. Thank you very much, Dr. Visal, and obviously Dr. Ahmed. Very interesting session. There are throughout a lot of comments thanking both of you for a wonderful session. So there are obviously questions also. Time is limited, so I'm going to go maybe a couple of questions, right? So at least we can answer a few questions. One of them is this one, which is related to, in the end, what you just said. I would like to know how mature a topic needs to be to perform a bibliometric analysis in terms of years since origin and publications.
Yeah, I'm trying to. I just came to the screen and I'm trying to read the question. I think I will try to answer this question. Maybe if Dr. Ahmed has something to add to this one, please just come in. I think there is no hard and fast rule that it should be, the topic has to be there for this number of years. But for me personally, I think because in bibliometric analysis, we want to show, the kind of, the knowledge that already exists in a particular domain. So if you say, for example, you have only a few tens or maybe 10, 50 publications in a given field, I don't think that suits the concept of doing a bibliometric analysis. So it's not the number of years, it's not the number of publications, but I think there should be some good number of publications. By good, it's very, very subjective, I guess, but it should not be very less that it doesn't actually serve the purpose of, because bibliometric is done because when you have so many publications and it's not easy for you to understand the field by looking, if you have few articles, you already understand what is there already. But if you cannot make sense, there are so many publications that it's difficult for you to make sense. I think that's where you can go for bibliometric analysis. And the number, of course, it doesn't matter so much. Dr. Ahmad?
That's super. The answer is very clear.
Thank you, Dr. Vishal and Dr. Ahmad. The other question is a similar question what I was asking Dr. Ahmad earlier. Which journals are mostly needing papers like this?
I think we tried to address this in the last few slides that I shared just now. So I think many journals, not only libraries and journals in many, many areas are accepting bibliometric papers right now. And if you want to actually find out from your field, maybe you can do a Scopus search. Just type the word bibliometric and then type whatever other keyword that you want to actually use, maybe hospitality or education or management, whatever, and see if people are doing bibliometrics in this particular domain and see where they are getting published.
Okay, I actually have a suggestion for this type of stuff, because these type of questions come a lot, right? And there's no problem with anybody asking this question. I think it's mainly lack of guidance. I did a video a couple of months ago on how to find the right journal for your papers, right? Something like that. I can quickly show this one. So what I would suggest to any authors like this is maybe look into this or any other methods. I mean, go to your library. Your librarians can tell you how to find the right journals. Or in fact, earlier, Dr. Vesal and Dr. Ahmed, both of them also showed some stuff about Shimago Jr., JR. Yeah, so that website also shows a ranking of journals. The best way is go find out journals and then go and check their published papers, recently published papers. For instance, just now Dr. Visal showed so many screenshots of journals. Some of those journals are really top tier journals. Journal of Hospitality and Tourism Management is a top tier journal. But I also know that in hospitality and tourism, there are top tier journals that are not interested in bibliometric analysis. So I think you have to go and check the journals, what they are publishing. Also look at the author guidelines, because sometimes author guidelines also explain very well that even if you do bibliometric analysis, what type of things they want you to put into it other than the analysis itself. So I think you've got to do some work on your own as a researcher. Okay, perfect. So let's continue with a couple of more questions. This is, I think, a software-specific question. Is it possible to use more than one database with VOSViewer? Second question, does this software show thicker edges between authors with higher collaboration?
I think the first part of the question is partly answered before by Dr. Ahmad. If you want to actually use data from a number of databases, I think that's possible, but you need to merge the data, merge and clean the data. And like Dr. Ahmad said, I also don't have any practical experience in doing that, but I know there are some papers who actually did this. Maybe if you are interested in merging data from different databases, you can actually read these papers who have done this. And I think definitely these papers would have some kind of explanation on how they actually managed to do this. For the second part of the question, yes, the software will show thicker edges for stronger relationships. Yes.
Okay. All right. Perfect. And I think you call them relative, numbers, right? Depending on overall stuff. And then, okay. Another question is also related to analysis. What's the difference between citation and co-citation analysis, and when we use these differently?
Citation simply means, for example, I have a publication, and there are some 3 other publications have cited my paper. I've got 3 citations. Simple. Co-citation means my work is cited with another work. For example, my work and somebody is writing a paper, and this particular author has cited my work and Dr. Ahmad's work. So that means then there is another article, say for example, and that article also cited my work and Dr. Ahmad's work. So now we have got a co-citation of strength of 2. Now let's say I have my work is cited by a third author, but this author did not cite Ahmad's work. My citation increases, but the co-citation remains the same. My citation now goes up to 3, but our co-citation remains 2 because we have been co-cited only in 2 by 2 authors. I think that's the concept. Dr.
Okay.
Ahmad?
Okay. I think Dr. Ahmad is a bit stuck, so I can go with the next question, and I don't know who else to take this question, right? So this other question is about, okay, hold on. Yeah, what is the meaning? There's a link between, oops, what happened? My internet becomes suddenly a bit slow. Okay, yeah. What's the meaning? There's a link between one cluster to others. How to interpret this?
Let me try to respond to this one. Of course, I think the meaning of these links will very much depend on the kind of analysis we are engaging. For example, the meaning of the link in a co-authorship network, or maybe in a collaboration network, may be very different from a keyword co-occurrence network. But anyway, the links shows us the relationships. The colors shows us the clusters, the themes. So as we can see, although there can be, if we are talking in terms of in taking the perspective of a keyword co-occurrence map, while there can be broad categories or themes of concepts, it doesn't mean that the concepts are really independent of one another. So in this particular case, the links could mean that, of course, these are distinct themes. There are some kind of relationship between these themes. So there's something like that. But the same interpretation, this interpretation could be different when you analyze, for example, something like a collaboration network. So I think it varies from network to network.
Okay. All right.
Let me add something now, Dr. Faisal. When we talk about the links, there are certain ways that we can interpret. For example, we can look at the thickness of the link, and also we can also look at the length of the link. For example, if the length is short, then we can say that the association between those two closely related, or there's a close relation. If there's a, I mean, it's saving if it's saving a short distance, and if it's saving a very long distance, then we can say that the association between these two event clusters or two authors, they're having too far. So there are ways that we need to look when we interpret the links. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Ahmad. So I think because the time is limited, we can go towards the end. Just very quick, one last question from both of you. So because you are experienced in this, and somebody asked me to share links of your papers, which I did. So those of you who are watching, you can go to the chat and check those links. You can read the papers, cite them if possible, read them. It's good for researchers. So I want to ask you, Dr. Vishal and Dr. Ahmed, based on your experience, what is your top 1, 2, or 3 suggestions for people who want to get into this bibliometric analysis?
Thank you very much, Dr. Faizan. I think there are a lot of benefits of doing the bibliometrics, especially the postgraduate students. When you want to, at the very initial stage of your research, I recommend the postgraduate students to do a bibliometric analysis on your research topic. Then the postgraduate students would understand what's the current trend of that topic, and also what's the future direction of the research. And one of the advantage of doing a bibliometric analysis at a very early stage of your research journey is that you can publish a paper, and you can fulfill the requirement of your PhD journey as well. And after doing the bibliometric paper, I also suggest the PhD students, you can go with the systematic literature review paper and also some conceptual papers. So this is one of the very initial steps. And looking at the benefits of bibliometric papers or bibliometric analysis, you don't have to go out and collect data. You have the data on your databases. You have to search, and when you do the search, I recommend you to do the thorough search. And also, another important recommendation is not to use the direct, the raw data that you extracted from the databases. Before you start the analysis, always keep in mind that you have to do the data cleaning. You have to do the data cleaning, check whether the wrongly entered information is there. For example, one of the easiest ways, you check the column of the year. In the year column, if there's something else in that column, I recommend to delete that row and do the data cleaning process. So I believe that this is one of the very fast and very cost-effective and way of doing or engage in research work and fulfilling the PhD requirement as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ahmad. Dr. Vishal, same question for you.
Thank you, Dr. Faizan. For somebody who actually wants to do bibliometric analysis and get it published, my advice would be, if possible, try to get some sort of formal training. Of course, these webinars will be eye-openers for most of us, but we really need to get engaged in proper training. And if it's difficult, do some collaboration. Okay, get somebody who can do the analysis for you, and in the meantime, you can also learn from them and try to get it published, do the work collaboratively. And third, but not the least, read bibliometric papers. That will help you a lot and to give you the feel of what bibliometric papers are and what can they do for you as a researcher, and how actually, as Dr. Ahmed's already mentioned, to understand your field and how you can progress in your area. I think that's all from me. And if this may be the last chance, I would also like to thank Dr. Faizan very much for having us here in this platform. It's really an honor for us to be here to share knowledge with all the fantastic researchers and learners here out there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Visal. It's my pleasure and honor is mine. I mean, I am so appreciative of you, not only to take the time, but also for your willingness to share your expertise and knowledge with a wider audience. And you can see, I mean, people absolutely, appreciate all this. It takes a long time to prepare. And, it's a big effort to speak for 2.5 to 3 hours constantly and then share your knowledge. So I agree to what you said in the end. These webinars and the reasons why, the main reason why I actually am doing these webinars is because I want younger researchers to understand that, there's a lot more than what you were trained in during your PhD. So open your eyes to a lot of other things that are happening around. These are new tools. For instance, SCM for the last 10 years, 15 years has been so much abused that now many journals are moving beyond SCM, right? So things like bibliometrics, things like systematic literature reviews are important. One is because of abuse of other methods. The other one is because in the last 10, 15 years, most of the disciplines have evolved quite a lot, right? I mean, if I look at hospitality and tourism, there's so much research going on now. So there's a need for bibliometric analysis and systematic literature reviews and meta-analysis and stuff like this. So I agree to you that these webinars are just a sort of a appetizer, just sort of understanding like what can you do with it. The main course is where you really need an expert to guide you throughout. Remember one other thing that we always say that there are people who study MBA, but then there are people who grow up in the middle of, those busy business streets who know business much, much better, right? So there's a lot of stuff happens, and collaborations, having a mentor who is good at research methods can really help younger researchers quite a bit. Lastly, I want to announce a couple of things. One is I'm always looking for people who are good at different things, right? Any sort of expertise. And you don't have to be a full professor. You don't have to be a dean. You don't have to be anything. You just need to have some expertise in a particular tool. So if you are good at something and you want to share it with a wider audience like this to benefit others, send me an email, drop me a message on Facebook, or however you want to connect. I'll be happy to have you over, and then we can share your expertise, your knowledge with a wider audience. And lastly, I already asked for it a couple of times. If anybody wants to support me in these initiatives, please let me know. I want to say this very clearly, that anything you support me, it doesn't go to my pocket. I'm actually trying to help different people with social causes and things. So anything that you support me is going to go further for somebody who is in need of it, right? I'm just trying to be a medium because $5 or $3 is not going to make me rich. So just telling you this. Thank you once again to Dr. Visal, Dr. Ahmed. I really appreciate both of you and your time. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Prof. Dr. Faizan, for giving us this opportunity to share our knowledge with the wider audience. And we really appreciate and acknowledge your work, especially what you are doing through the research beast. And I'm very sure that you're helping the young researchers and the postgraduate students in the area of the research and publications. Thank you, and we will definitely continue to support you in case if you need any help. And also, we are very willing to collaborate with others in the area of the bibliometric research papers or in other areas too. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
And
sorry, I actually really forgot this thing about both of you. So if anybody wants to collaborate with the both of you, right, Dr. Ahmed or Dr. Visal, because obviously you are experts in this, what is the best way to connect with you? So whoever watches this right now or in the future, if they want to reach out to you and collaborate or however, what is the best way to reach out to you?
Yeah, the best way would be send an email.
Sending an email?
Yeah, send an email, and in the email, he or she can mention about that and can explain that, and we will definitely reply back. Thank you. Dr. Richard?
Oh, yeah, sure, sure. Dr. Faizan, if you have, I'm not sure if you have our email addresses. If you have, you can definitely share the email addresses, maybe in the comment section later on, or however way, whatever way you want to actually
Yeah,
share.
sure. I
No,
think
no
it's a good
problem.
idea. I will add it to the video description. So even in the future, anybody watches this video can simply go to the description, pick up your email addresses and your affiliations so they can contact you and then, work. Thank you once again to both of you, Dr. Vishal and Dr. Ahmed, and to everybody else who was watching. We had a very active audience throughout the session. Now people started dropping because it's late, but we had a very active participation throughout. So thank you, everyone. Stay safe, stay healthy, and may God bless you all.